Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be wrapping up the books that I read in August of 2022. I ended up reading 13 books, and most of these books I've already talked about extensively on my channel, whether it is in reading vlogs or a dedicated book review. So I won't be extensively talking about a lot of these, but I will be more getting into the books that I haven't talked about yet. So there's only like 4 books I haven't talked about at all. So I'm going to get to all the books that I have talked about first. So the first one I started off the month with was Bunny by Mona Awad, which I have a dedicated book review for, and this one was crazy. I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, and yeah, it was out there. It was a lot of fun to read. I read it with the Black Hearts Book Club, and I think I would have absolutely hated the book if I hadn't have read it with them, but reading it with them made me at least kind of understand it more, even though I didn't necessarily like it. Then I read 4 books for August of Adventure. I started off with Kidnapped by Robert Louis Stevenson. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's a very fun, light adventure story. Next one I read was The Sheik by E.M. Hull, which I gave, I think, 2 out of 5 stars. It was very meh to me, and there were a lot of very problematic stuff in there, but he did have adventurous moments, which is why it doesn't get a 1 star, it gets a 2 star. And then I read Moby Dick, controversial classic, because a lot of people seem to very much not like it, or not enjoy it, or just absolutely love it. I haven't noticed a lot of opinions very much in the middle. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. There are a lot of descriptions of whales, and I don't think always the narrative story works always with the whale descriptions. Like, it doesn't blend together always, but besides that, I really enjoyed this book. It's so informative when it comes to whales and whaling of the era in the 19th century. So yeah, I talked about it in my August of Adventure reading vlog. Then the last one I read for August of Adventure was The Seahawk by Raphael Sabatini. I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars, but it's very close to 5 stars for me, probably 4.5 stars. A very fun adventure, a great book that is very similar to Captain Blood. Here, I have Captain Blood right here. One of my favorite pirate adventures. This is very similar to it, so if you've read Captain Blood and enjoyed it, you will like The Seahawk. Then I also read 4 books for Garbaugust, which is all about reading trashy books and books that are not exactly highbrow. I had mixed feelings about a lot of the books that I read for Garbaugust. There were some that I really enjoyed despite their imperfections, and some that I really struggled with. Again, I will link that vlog for Garbaugust reading down in the description, but I started off with Mr. Begone by Clive Barker, a horror about demons and the Gutenberg press. Fascinating book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, so it wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. It was a fun read. Then I read Perfume by Patrick Susskind. This one was fascinating and very unique, but that ending definitely downgraded it. I was thinking of giving it 3 or 4 stars, and the ending downgraded it to 2 stars. Then I tried to read A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, and usually I don't include my DNFs, but because I got 60% in, which usually when I DNF a book, it's within the first 50 pages, and I'm like, this isn't my type of book. But this book went from being really interesting in the beginning to being really bad, so yeah, I'm including it on this list. And yeah, I have more thoughts in my Garbaugust reading vlog. This is the actual last book I read this month, and that is The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. And at first I was going to give this 2 stars, but after thinking and musing about my thoughts about it, I think I'm going to downgrade it to 1 star, just because it's clear that Dan Brown was very much propagating a narrative with this book. It wasn't supposed to be just a fun thriller with these theories. I think he was very much attacking history, trying to change history, and especially the history of the Catholic Church. So I don't like this book, and I don't like this author. I don't know about him personally. He might be a great guy. Also, a quick mention, because I wasn't able to finish it, but I am a good chunk of the way through, is The Da Vinci Hoax, which is basically breaking down the Da Vinci Code. I'll talk more about it in my next month's wrap-up, because I'm only about, I think, 60 pages in. I'm enjoying it, but it is written by 2 Catholics. So one woman is a medieval historian, and the other man is a Catholic editor for a newspaper, a non-religious newspaper. And because of that, it does have a Catholic bent. So it almost seems like this is very anti-Catholic. This is very pro-Catholic. And I kind of would have preferred if this had been a little bit more secular, like looking at the real history without having the very religious lens. This coming from a Catholic. So I am enjoying this a lot more than I'm enjoying this, but because obviously I'm Catholic. But I would like one that really dismantles the arguments in this without taking a very religious bent. Don't know if that makes sense. Now we get to the 4 books that I did not talk about at all in any of my other reading vlogs or book reviews. The one I'm probably going to do a dedicated series review to in the next couple months. I can't read it in September, but I'll probably read it in October. I have gotten into the detective Kunsuke Kandaichi, Seshi Yoko Miso. He was an author that wrote, I would say, around the 40s. I think he wrote for a couple decades as well. But he was a Japanese author who very much idealized the detective novels of Britain, especially. So he was a great admirer of like Agatha Christie, E.C. Bentley, all these great classic golden age mystery writers. And so he wrote this series that is set in Japan. And this first book that I read this month is titled The Honjin Murders, and this was a fascinating locked room mystery. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it, and it was very interesting how it was very societal. I won't go into this video extensively about this book because I took notes and I really want to read the next 2 books in the series. Not all the books in the series are translated into English, but the 3 of the books are, so those are the ones that I want to read. Not only is it interesting, but Yoko Miso is also just a fascinating individual to learn about. And then I started The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. So this one is basically a retelling of the island of Dr. Moreau, but set in 19th century Mexico. So it's really fascinating because it examines the real life history of Mexico during that time, the conflict between the, I guess, native peoples of Mexico and the Spanish, of course they were all born in Mexico, but the Spanish descended people. So it was interesting to see that contrast, but it follows this young woman whose father is this Dr. Moreau, who has created these hybrid beasts who are part animal, part human, and it also follows this young man who is the main protagonist, kind of, in the original Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells, which is an exceptional classic. You should read it. And he, Montgomery Langton, who is the second primary main character, he comes to stay with Dr. Moreau and his daughter. So the book, even though it's called The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, it is equally the story of Langton and the daughter, Carlotta. So it's equally their stories. So I ended up giving this 3 out of 5 stars. There was a lot of interesting aspects in the book, whether it's the historical stuff. Also, I really loved the close relationship that Carlotta had with all the hybrids, they called them. There's also this young man who comes into the book who falls in love with Carlotta, and he is from a family who absolutely hates Dr. Moreau. So you have that conflict. I did not like the romance in this book, which is probably why I gave it lower stars. I just really did not care for a lot of parts of the book. I enjoyed seeing the conflicted relationship Carlotta had with her father. I enjoyed seeing the friendship between Langton and Carlotta, even though I didn't necessarily enjoy it later on. But in the beginning, I enjoyed it. I really loved Carlotta's relationship with the hybrids, like I said. So there was a lot of stuff I enjoyed in this book. I just thought there were certain ways that the middle really fell short for me. The beginning really pulled me in, and the ending I thought concluded things very well, kind of sticking with the original while being very different and unique. And I enjoyed that, how different it is from the original classic, and making itself into something unique and new, while also kind of staying true to some of the themes and ideas that are in the original. So I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was an amazing book, but I thought it was a good book, and I still love the cover. And then I read The Hunger of the Gods, which is the second book of the Bloodthorn saga by John Gwynne. I read this as a buddy read with my husband. We didn't end up doing a book review for this one. This one I think is even longer than the first one. This one was like 650 pages, so it is quite a chunker, but I do really enjoy these. It's very much blends fantasy and Viking mythology, and it's really interesting. In the first book, without giving away too many spoilers, the gods are considered kind of dead, and in the second book, the gods are much more present in the narrative, and I really enjoyed that. We follow new perspectives, but all the perspectives were still semi-main characters in the previous book. So it was really interesting to see like the choices of perspectives, the choices of pacing. I've heard this argued as being better than the first book, and I think it definitely delivers on a lot of the stuff that the first book built up. I don't know if I enjoyed it better than the first book. I think I enjoyed it just as well as the first book, but it's a fun fantasy read, especially since it definitely blends the harsh society of a Viking history with more fanciful elements. So I really enjoyed that, where like there are a lot of elements of history, and I think that's why I like John Gwynne's writing so much, is because I don't necessarily enjoy fantasy as a genre, but I do love history. The last book I read this month, which was kind of for Garbaugust, so technically this counts as Garbaugust, but it didn't end up being very trashy to me, but it's called The Duke's Marriage of Convenience by Fiona Myers. And this one, I don't want to be too harsh on it because it is an indie published book, and I just picked it up because I was in the mood for like some light, fun romance. It follows Raven, whose name, like, why would you name someone Raven in the Regency era? By the way, like, this may be a Regency era. I assume by the cover it's Regency era. This book could have been set in like late 1800s or early 1800s, possibly even 1700s, and it would make no difference. It would have been the exact same story. So I didn't get any historical sense in it, which I'm kind of used to in historical romance, because very much the romance is forefront, the history is second. I get that, so I was prepared for that going in. But Raven and Andrew, who are a couple kind of in a marriage of convenience, and of course they fall in love. My only problem was, you know, their romance was okay. I didn't really get their chemistry, but I just hated how near the end she sleeps with him, and then she decides that, you know what, because he didn't call the vet to take care of a sick horse, you know what, she's not going to give him a second chance. No, she's just going to like break off the marriage and leave after she slept with him, absolutely ruining her reputation. And I'm just like, what? So yeah, that downgraded the book a lot for me. But it was just a meh book, I guess. So those are all the books that I read in August. I'm hoping, like it was weird. It's a weird month for me because certain books I really loved, like, are some of my new favorites that I think are so great books. And then some of the ones I read were like, this is a horrible book. So yeah, I had very mixed feelings about the books that I read this month, but hopefully next month I will have more of books that I absolutely love, like many, many books that I absolutely love. So have you read any of these books? What did you read in August? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you like this video, like, subscribe. I post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!